Hey, welcome. Take a seat. I've had a listen to your new song, Runaway. Now, great song. Just a few issues. Let's start with this intro. It's quite long, isn't it? We need impact. We gotta hit these kids where it hurts. Get in, get out. We need She Loves You. A bit before your time, I know. Bang! She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. The Beatles. You are doing a journey. That was okay back in the day, but this is the era of the short attention span. The SAS. Short attention span. Yes, Runaway takes a fair amount of time to get going, and yes, we live in a world populated by people with incredibly short attention spans. TikTok rules the world. And Instagram Reels, and now YouTube Shorts. There was a time when people would tell you that you've got 3.5 minutes to get your point across in a song. You probably now have around 5 seconds. If you want to be famous, then just be a pretty girl shaking your ass on camera for a handful of seconds. No need to be Charlie Chaplin or Clint Eastwood or Orson Welles or Jermaine Greer. Just shake that booty. Don't Stop Believing by the band Journey took 45 minutes to get to the first chorus. You'll be advised by everybody today to just get to the point. My YouTube audience retention figures prove this. Few people watch my videos past about 30 seconds. Yet here Kanye is, playing a note on the piano for 37 seconds. At this point in She Loves You, the Beatles had already sung a chorus and a verse. Honestly, if you're starting out in music right now, don't follow Kanye's example. Yeah, it is great, isn't it? You're really going to start the song with this piano, this one repeating note. We're not going to have any other instruments? Or we're not at least going to play a few chords? A bit of melody? Kanye. Haven't you heard how music's supposed to be made? Melody and harmony? There's not a lot of melody and harmony in a single note, is there? Great song, mate. But you gotta change the intro up a bit. This single note on the piano in the intro is interesting. Musicians will understand what I'm about to say when you've got a whole song recorded. You've got bass and drums and electric guitars and orchestra and synths and tambourines and shakers and vocals and backing vocals. And it sounds good. But then you solo a track, the bass say, and it just sounds perfect. And then you solo a different track, like the piano, and it just sounds massive because it occupies all the available space. It has nothing else to compete with. It sounds emotional and it makes you cry. But then you press the button again, you bring back all the instruments, and then you realise, what was the point of recording all the instruments if you're going to strip them all out? I strongly suspect Kanye did this. He recorded the whole song, then soloed the piano and thought, hell yes. It's a brave choice. Loads of songs start with a single repeating note, like They're Killers, all these things that I've done. When there's nowhere else to run, is there room for one more sun? But what you'll notice is, pretty much immediately, they bring in a load more instruments. Kanye's intro is naked, and this makes it one of the greatest intros of all time. And the idea of one repeating note. Can one repeating note be interesting? Listen to Musica Riccasata by Giorgi Ligeti. A whole song with just a repeating A note. Kanye's not doing anything new here, but he is going against the grain, and I like that. Kanye! Great song. But when those drums come in, it does sound dated. 90s, trip hop, sneaker pimps. It doesn't say 2010 in big neon lights, does it? Great song, but you need to change those drums up. I mean, what's with that crashing sound you use as a snare in the chorus? Little bit Phil Collins. Yeah, I do think the sound of the drums makes the song sound like a product of the 90s. Back in that era, you had bands taking 60s and 70s records and just riffing over them. I think on Runaway, Kanye's messing with the drums from some old Backyard Heavy song. But the idea of riffing over sampled beats dates back to ancient Rome and Hadrian's Wall. My favourite example of this was in the 90s when Portishead and Tricky both used the exact same old sample of an Isaac Hayes song. And they came up with Glory Box and Hell Is Around the Corner. Both songs perfect, neither are better than the other. And that crashing snare sound in the chorus of Runaway, yeah, it does have a bit of a Phil Collins vibe to it, that gated reverb on the snare. In the 80s, Phil Collins was playing drums on a Peter Gabriel song and the producer left a mic on that he shouldn't have left on, and by accident, they created the 80s gated reverb snare sound. And that sound ended up defining the drum sound of the 80s. And here, I like Kanye's mix of the 80s and 90s. It is simply gorgeous. Kanye, great song, man. But what is it with you layering up your vocals out of time? You're singing one thing and then you're singing the same thing, kind of, and layering it in, and it's all like wishy-washy. It doesn't fit. Get it right, man. We're putting a lot of money into this. The layering of the vocals on this song is quite haphazard. It's the kind of thing that most producers would want to correct. Double tracking of vocals has been done for decades. It's the idea of singing a line and then singing the same line again and then putting those two versions of the vocals on top of each other, and it just sounds more powerful. Famously, John Lennon hated the idea of having to sing all the vocals twice. So the Abbey Road engineers created an artificial means of doing it, so he only had to sing it once. It was called automated artificial double tracking. You just take a recorded vocal and you basically copy and paste it with a slight delay. So singing like this ends up sounding like singing like this. And then there's what Kanye's doing here, which reminds me of what Marvin Gaye was up to on What's Going On in the early 70s, where he was recording himself singing and he was doing a different take, and then they kind of put the two takes together to see which one they prefer, and kind of by accident they ended up with two completely different ways of singing on top of each other as what could be seen as a bit of a mess, but what actually ended up sounding like pure gold. Random, difficult, musically perfect. Kanye, fantastic song, superb. Just one thing, the lyrics. Toasting arseholes and scumbags. We're celebrating jerk-offs here? I'm not sure this is something we can sanction. This is not the done thing. I like the idea of singing a song that's ostensibly about somebody else, but it's actually about you. This song is an apology by someone who's never going to apologise. This song has punk spirit. I sent this bitch a picture of my dick. Look, that's not a bright thing to do. I don't encourage any of you to do that. It'll come back and haunt you, and you'll have to write a rap song about it. I don't know what it is with females. I love this line. It reminds me of the dad in Friday Night Dinner who's always asking his son, how are you doing with the females? I know that females is technically accurate, but it's just something that nobody says, ever. Kanye, great song. But this ending with the noise, this auto-tune, vocoder, unintelligible nonsense, it just goes on and on and on and on. Remember what I said about getting to the point? Getting in and getting out? This just isn't right, mate. This is ruining an otherwise fantastic song. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, obviously, but you have to delete this. The ending's probably the most interesting part of the song. For the most part, it is unintelligible. You can tell he's repeating, you've been putting up with my shit for way too long. I'm so gifted at finding what I don't like the most, so I think it's time for us to have a toast. But overall, it's melodic noise. Musicians have been experimenting with the idea of melodic noise since the birth of time. Violins, pianos, guitars, distorted synths, anything that can make a noise. Turning a voice into a noise is music. But it's also like a kind of statement. Now, I'm sure Kanye had his own intention for the ending of the song. Perhaps it was about the way that what he says is misinterpreted by people, or that his words are considered irrelevant compared to the shenanigans in his everyday life. It may well be a direct response to the media. I know the song as a whole has a kind of relationship to the Taylor Swift interruption event. I'll put my own take on it. I've sat here for years spouting on about how lyrics are important when they're important. They can mean everything, they can mean nothing, they can mean something to the artist shouldn't necessarily tell you what it means to them. There are people around the world dissecting lyrics, but on the whole, music is sound waves that are either pleasant or obnoxious to you. I should set the record straight again. I do indeed listen to lyrics, but everything should be in its right place. Good music is good music. Good music with lyrics is good music with lyrics. Here, the song ends with lyrical content that you can't quite make out. It sounds good, but it's like one of my first listens. I hear it and I like it. And then you say, yeah, but what about the bit where you missed out on him saying the line where he says X, Y, and Z? Well, you know what? This is a song where you will forever miss that line. This is a song that says the song rules. It's a sound wave. It hits you. You either like it or you don't. You either like Runaway or you don't. The song exists and will continue to exist regardless of your feelings. And for that, I think it's time for us to have a toast.